What's up, guys? It's Jay, MorninAfterKill, and I'm back here on my YouTube channel. And if you've been following my YouTube channel, you would know the other day I posted a video talking about the new YouTube content ID policy, copyright strikes, and the dreaded claim rushers, which try to jack the monetization on your video because they know that you have no grounds to dispute those claims, and they're pretty much making money off you. Now, a lot of people have come back and commented, and they were a little unclear on a few things, and they're throwing around terms like fair use. Now, a lot of people know on my channel there is a fun-loving motherfucking backside to me, and there is a guy inside of me that knows how to put on the suit and tie the straight business face and get down to brass tacks. And that's the side of me that you're gonna see today, because I'm gonna talk to you about why fair use doesn't apply to YouTube. But I also want to talk about the fact that this is not YouTube's fault. YouTube was at the mercy of these copyright laws a few years ago, and YouTube was at a very real possibility of being shut down because of all the copyrighted content that was on YouTube, and they had to come up with some type of guideline system that made sense at that point in time to go ahead and use. So what I've done is I've written out this commentary like an open letter. That way I make sure I hit every single point, because it's imperative that you actually listen to the words that I'm saying, because there is going to be a lot of business terms and a lot of legalese used inside of this video. So without further ado, sit back, relax, crack open that beer, grab yourself some popcorn. I don't know, maybe a Lunchables. I love Lunchables. I eat Lunchables like 3 or 4 times a week, and I hope Lunchables doesn't claim my video. No, I'll just fight with you. So let's get into this right away. Fair use and YouTube. First off, we gotta take a look at what fair use means in U.S. copyright law. The actual definition that I pulled off the internet is the doctrine that brief excerpts of copyright material may, under certain circumstances, be quoted verbatim for purposes such as criticism, news reporting, teaching, research, without the need for permission for payment to the copyright holder. Now, this should exempt you from some of these copyright content ID matches, especially if you're informing somebody about a game, you're teaching them how to play it, or you're using this as a review on YouTube, which a lot of you guys know that Angry Joe, he went public about this and talking about that most of his work is free use, but it's not being called free use on YouTube. Why? Because when U.S. copyright law was created, this was to ensure a fair and free public media. YouTube in general is not free public media. It may seem like it is, but YouTube is a website which has a very long-winded terms of service policy, and you must agree to this policy when signing up for their website. In these terms of services, YouTube has structured their own copyright guidelines that operate within the guidelines of copyright law, not only globally, but nationally here in America. In fact, YouTube's content ID system was put into place after many companies were lobbying that YouTube hold their content creators to standards of the copyright laws and systems that are already in place. YouTube was in jeopardy at one point because the standards to copyright were so lax and everybody was able to use any type of content they wanted, whether it was monetized or not. So, instead of being shut down, YouTube worked with these companies to create a system of content ID monetization to make sure that those companies' work being used and monetized will be able to get their proper compensation for their intellectual property that is being used. So, why doesn't fair use apply to this situation? Because fair use is a litigious term. Fair use only applies as a defense in a court of law. YouTube is not a court of law. YouTube is a privately operated website with its own terms of services and copyright guidelines that you must follow in order to continue to upload, monetize, and use their services. In a court of law, however, these claims of fair use might actually stand up if they are legitimate. But it's up to the defendant in the United States legal system to provide the burden of proof that this is actually fair use. Now, a lot of companies have massive resources to bury the average YouTuber in litigation in hopes that they spend your entire financial resources before you even make it to court. This is actually how the process of paying royalties in America started. Companies would bury defendants with rightful claims in so much paperwork, so much legalese, that the defendant had no choice but to agree to the company that their fair use will stand as long as they pay the company prosecuting a percentage of the money that the defendant is making off their material. You see this as standard practices nowadays with commercials using songs, artists such as Weird Al Yankovic with his parodies, all the way down to the content ID matches on YouTube, which can be considered a royalty since they're not taking money that you've already made away from you, they are just taking over monetization from that point forward. So really, whose fault is this system? Is it really YouTube's fault that their hand was forced by these companies years ago to make these changes in order to be able to keep operating for business? Many of these companies now realize the benefit of YouTube and the content created as a driving force for sales. So not only does YouTube have this content ID system now, which, mind you, these companies fought for and signed up for willingly, now are being auto-claimed by a lot of legitimate content and creating this whole hysteria-filled backlash. Now, these companies that actually signed up for this content creator are now in a different landscape, in a different world of YouTube, where they're actually making money off these content creators by driving sales, hype, and all types of sorts of advertising on YouTube. And that's where things is going wrong. Because if you want to look at where the real problem is, it's the actual copyright laws that limit the reach of the content creator. Since these laws were written in a different time period, it was impossible to predict the current climate of technology. These laws were written to protect the company in a time when companies were struggling to keep their intellectual property on their own. Now that the landscape has changed, in a given game, there are 100 examples of copyrighted work inside of a video game that extend to outsourced materials from other companies, such as audio engineering and script writing. There's also likenesses of actors, real voices, real orchestrated musical talent is being used from outside of the company while making these games, which means in a given regular, everyday, normal gameplay, let's play video, or commentary, there could be up to 10 to 20 companies with a valid claim to copyright on your video. These are companies that are already receiving a royalty check for their work from the game developer, from the sales within the game, and an opportunity now to make extra income from claiming work that they've already done and receiving a bonus royalty on top of the royalties for the work that they are already contracted and have created for. So the problem now is the same thing with everything else that's been long pioneered way before us. The US copyright law was once built in order to protect the intellectual property holder, and now it's being used to infringe upon the rights of a new breed of intellectual content. And until the laws catch up with the time, YouTube is at the mercy to abide by these broad and generic set of rules, which leave too much gray area. And when you take a look at law and case law study, there is no room for gray area. Written law needs to be black and white, which means that these copyright laws that do have huge gray areas because of the internet and digital copyright signatures, you now need to further elaborate these laws into the digital realm of content creation. So YouTube's policies they are in effect, and they always have been in effect since they were at the mercy of antiquated laws at the time that this policy was created. So, since the landscape for gaming and YouTube has totally changed and actually bloomed into its own intellectual property business, it's up to companies that originally signed up for this content ID system with YouTube in the first place to set this right with its content creators, and until the copyright laws of America catch up to the times and recognize this new media explosion, YouTube's hands are bound. So it's up to the gaming companies to stand their ground right now and come out with a public statement that is clear and cut of exactly what media is usable from their company and what media isn't, because US copyright law doesn't go and protect anybody in this sort of situation, and also YouTube is bound by US copyright law. So those are the people that lobbied for these changes in the first place, which are not only game companies but music companies, movie companies, all of these that now recognize YouTube as a valuable source for, content that's created by the user for, advertising their game. They now need to stand up and they need to tell YouTube, be like, hey, we don't want this being claimed anymore. We want to opt out of this content ID system. We want to offer a blanket statement of, kind of immunity where, Capcom has already come out and said it on Twitter. If you have any type of content ID from our company, it's not us. Go ahead and dispute it, and we will give you written permission inside of, blah, 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 the email, and we're going to help you dispute this. That's what needs to happen. These game creators need to come out and say, look, here is your written permission. Here is a file you could download that has written permission from our company that you can use and monetize our game as long as you go by their strict guidelines and rules. And that would be like EA, for example, uses licensed music inside of their game. Now, since that music is only licensed to EA, they do not own that intellectual property to allow you to use, I'm pretty sure Guns N' Roses and some type of Black Sabbath are inside of the new Madden, and you're not allowed to use that. You are not, because they have only licensed EA to use that music. EA does not have a transferable license on that, and they cannot tell you that, yes, you could use that because it's inside their game, even though they have already paid for licensing. The licensing only covers EA and doesn't cover under people that are, underneath that blanket. So those people out there that are looking at their videos and are like, hey, I only used a 10-second clip of this, I only used a 5-second clip of that, I should be paid, some type of money for this video, because even though it's not the entire video, it is a small portion of their video that does have the copyrighted claims, and YouTube doesn't have a policy in effect right now to offer any type of royalties to the company for the percentage based of how much time their clip was compared to the original content. So if you have a 10-second clip that you used in a 30-second video, that means that that company probably has a very large chunk of, rights to that video. But if they used a 10-second clip inside of a 20-minute video, should they be given the entire monetization for that video, or should they be paid a percentage of royalties? And this is what's happened back in like the 80s, back in like the 70s, 80s area, where all these parodies were coming out. You also have, Vanilla Ice got sued by, I think it was David Bowie, because he used a very similar, bass line, except, Vanilla Ice skirted that by putting a little snare at the end of, when he had the ba-doom, boom, boom, ba-doom, boom. But since majority of the bass line did belong to Queen and David Bowie, he had to end up paying royalties towards the song after it became a hit. So it's a very, very gray area right now with how corporate structure and copyright laws are pertaining to the internet, especially YouTube, like I said, which is a privately ran website and isn't free in public media, because if it was free in public media, you would not have to abide by their terms and services just to use their site. Whereas anyone can just pretty much go on to public radio and say whatever the fuck they want. That is the difference between free and public media and privately owned websites. So, my name is Jay, MorninAfterKill. Make sure you guys rate, comment, subscribe. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you could leave a thumbs up on this video, I would highly appreciate it because it gives me motivation to make more videos for you motherfuckers that watch my motherfucking videos. This is not YouTube's fault. The fault of this is that the, copyright laws are really old, they're really dated, and they leave too much gray area for, the law to cover, and that needs to be elaborated upon. And the problem with that is the elaboration upon this, gray area came in the form of SOPA and all other types of bills that, would block a lot of copyrighted material from being used on YouTube because of, that's how they want to structure it. So these laws are being used, which were originally made to protect an intellectual property of the content creator. But now that you have content creators making content out of other intellectually owned properties, it needs to be changed. Something needs to be done inside of these copyright laws for YouTube to be able to untie their hands and be able to help you guys out. So, my name is Jay. MorninAfterKill. Make sure you guys rate, comment, subscribe. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you leave a thumbs up on the video, I would highly appreciate it because it gives me motivation to make more videos for you motherfuckers that watch my motherfucking videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys understood this. If you have any questions down below, leave them in the comment motherfucking section. And, I'm gonna see you guys later.